Hello and welcome back to episode 2 of Structureless Superflat Survival, the world where we started with just a bonus chest on a superflat world and are trying to push this game as far as possible and build the most insane builds possible. Last episode, we built this huge mountain, which looks pretty cool, but the inside is lacking much of anything. And today, we're going to change that and make the coolest cave system you've ever seen, without using a single block of stone, mainly because we don't have any. So, let me explain to you why there's so many things I can get and so many things that I'm not able to get in my world. All using this beautiful roadmap, which I did not make. By turning on a bonus chest, you get really the only two things you need to get to the end game of Structureless Superflat. Apples and wood for a crafting table. Using these, you can kill a bunch of zombies and get iron off them, which is a really rare drop. Then you make a cauldron, wait for it to fill up with rainwater, take out the water, and you have infinite water. Then you drown some zombies, kill those, get some copper, use your crafting table again, and make a lightning rod. Then you find some naturally spawning pigs, breed those up with carrots and potatoes. You've got enough zombies and farmed up. Then you wait for the pigs to get struck by lightning. You have zombie pigmen. Kill all those, you get gold. Then, using your apples from the bonus chest and the gold you just got, you use the crafting table again, make golden apples. Then, get close to a witch and a zombie villager, wait for him to throw a weakness potion at you, hit the zombie villager, cure him with a golden apple, and you have villagers. And infinite villagers is basically access to every single item you can get in Structureless Superflat. That, along with the Wandering Trader. And while yes, there's a lot of stuff you can get from villagers and the Wandering Trader, there's a lot more you can't get. Like, you can't go to the end or get any blocks from there. You can't go to the nether or get anything from there. And you can't get stone or lava, even from villagers, like some people might think. So, we're going to have to build this cave system out of some interesting blocks that kind of look like stone, but none of them are actually stone. We got light gray wool from sheep, clay from dried out mud, polished andesite from stonemason villagers, and dead coral, which we can buy off the Wandering Trader. And yeah, that's basically it. That's what the whole cave system is going to be made out of. These couple blocks. And maybe a little bit of other blocks scattered in there. But this is about it. And let me tell you, on a large scale, this looks pretty dang good. So now you understand the many limitations of my world and how we'll be working around those for this build. So we can actually get started on this project. And I would do a resource gathering montage, but watching me trade with villagers and shear sheep for wool really wouldn't be that entertaining. So instead, we're just going to skip to building, because that's the fun part anyway. So, let's get to it. So that took way longer than expected. If you were watching the days in game at the beginning and watching them slowly climb up and up throughout the whole build montage, you'll see that it took me about 400 in-game days to actually complete that whole cave system. And it was way bigger than I thought it was originally going to be, and it ended up way cooler than I could have imagined. So let's go take a look inside now. So there's a couple different entrances into this cave system, but this one right here in the front is the main one I'll be using 90% of the time, so that's where I'm going to do the tour from. It opens up into a nice mossy cave, lots of life and plants, and even a little stream going through the cave, and lots of detailing and plants, and something I did on the side which isn't really possible in complete vanilla, is I have a little texture pack that makes item frames invisible, which is really nice for detailing because you can put items in there and it really just looks like it's laying on the ground, and it allows you to use a lot of items in a way that you could detail that you can't really do regularly. So that's the only real texture pack in my world. Everything else is completely vanilla and normal. But you come down here and it thins out a bit and you squeeze through here and then it opens up into a big open area. And the stream comes through here and ends up in a little pond at the bottom in the middle of this area, kind of the focal point. And then you have the choice between two different directions, either left or right. Well, you don't have the choice because I'm making you go right. So we'll go down here, around here, and you see some honey kind of foreshadowing of what the next cave area is. So you go up and around, and now you're presented with this. Now this cave is probably the most chaotic in the whole cave system, and also probably my favorite just because there's so much going on and so much to look at. And the story I was trying to get across with this one is that up on the mountain, there's a little house, and in the basement, there's a honey farm with a collapsed floor, and that the floor collapsed all the way down, and the bees and the honey have just infested and taken over this whole cave, and that kind of drove all the miners and all the people that were searching for the ores and resources down here out, and it kind of just left it as an old abandoned mine, which I really think I sold pretty well, even though it's a very interesting concept and interesting set of events. I think I pulled it off pretty well. You can see the collapsed floor tore through the transportation rail they had up there, and that's kind of fallen down to the bottom. And there's also a lot of abandoned machinery with some wheelbarrows that are empty, an old crane that's kind of rusted over and collapsed down. The links have kind of broken, and then some overgrowth has grown onto that. And then if we go up here onto the little jut out, you can see a little blast area that they were about to blow up, expand the whole cave, and then try and find maybe some more resources and ores down here. But they never got to it as they were driven out by the whole infestation. And you can see I used the invisible item frames again to add some more detailing to the crane, and really just adds a lot of details to it. And if we go on down, you can see more abandoned ores and another blast area that was kind of abandoned with the still flashing warning lights. And a big bee nest here, and I decided not to include any actual bees because I thought they'd be a bit too much, because they'd be flying around everywhere. And if you've seen the bats, yeah, they're a bit annoying. I didn't want the same thing with a bunch of bees flying everywhere. I wanted it more to have a feeling of being dead and abandoned, which I think I pulled off pretty well. But anyways, that's about it for this one, and we'll continue on through here and up to the mushroom cave. Now this cave, like the surrounding ones, is very lively with a lot of plants and life in here, which I wanted to continue in the area to try to have some continuity there. And there's also some overgrowth on the ceiling you can see, but it's not as dead in here with all the mushrooms. Lots of bright colors and some hanging from the ceiling and some smaller ones on the ground. And I did some pretty unique ones, like this one with dried kelp and the pumpkin one, and even a coral one hanging from the ceiling, which overall I really like the atmosphere and how alive this room feels. And this carries up, still got the plants and the life of the mushrooms, and then it slowly will die out as we get up to the dripstone cave where the plant life kind of goes away and it's a lot more rocky and jagged up here. And the thing about this cave, it's a very harsh transition from the lively and gray cave we have back there, and then you go to an all brown and orange cave. And we got a little hole peeking through. You can see down to the lush cave below, the old abandoned one, and then you can look up and up the tunnel. But this area is very rocky and jagged, which I tried to get across. And you got some dark spots in the back. And then a big dripstone pillar in the middle holding up the whole cave, which has a little door, because this is actually the witch's house, because I need a witch to cure any villagers in my world. So it's really helpful to have a little area where I can bring up zombie villagers and cure them. So I just put that in the little dripstone to try and add some functionality to the cave. And I really like the lighting in this room. It's nice atmosphere. And one thing that I don't quite love is that I used polished andesite because I actually can't get regular andesite, which would go a lot better with the dripstone. It sticks out a little bit more, but I still think it looks pretty good and breaks up the cave texture being just dripstone everywhere. So I still think it's better than just plain dripstone. But if we come up here, we'll see the water. Oh, I didn't do the water yet. Give me 1 second. So now we can explore the entire aquatic branch of the cave system. And this whole area is very lively with a lot of plant life and coral and even some tropical fish swimming around, all of which you can surprisingly get off the Wandering Trader. And down here we'll see our little drowned Walsworth poison tree and this little pet fish. And if we swim a little lower, we'll see a hidden beach down here where maybe a pirate or somebody came to hide all their things and they eventually got stuck down here because the cave flooded and they were unable to get back out and all their treasures just lay here still. Also, something in this cave that I want to mention that I've kind of forgotten about before is how I've been using the wool, the clay, and the andesite all together, and how I've been making it in light areas. I've used a lot more wool and clay to kind of emphasize the lightness because clay is a really light block. And then I'll keep using the wool and then transition over to some polished andesite in the darker areas to kind of emphasize the darkness. And that's what I've been doing around the whole cave system. I just didn't really get around to mentioning it until now. And also another thing is these cute little cattails. These aren't my design. I saw these online somewhere, but they look quite nice in the water and just poke out for some extra little details above the water. And something I really like about the whole underwater area of the cave system is how much I'm able to use the vertical aspect and just go straight up and down, which allows me to have a lot of little pockets or just entire cave branches off to the side, and it makes it a lot more fun to traverse up and down rather than just the repetitive side to side motion. This is another one of my entrances, but if we go back down, we'll see near the top of the mountain we got a cave where there's no sand on the ground. It's a lot more dead, and you approach and you see some ice, and you'll pop up into this beauty. Now this cave, while it does look pretty cool, and it's really not that big, this was by far the worst to build and the only one I did not enjoy building. Because every single block you see up here is mirrored down there underneath this layer of ice. And that is very annoying to do upside down, to look up and mirror every single block you place. But in the end, I think the effect turned out pretty good, and I like how it looks with the mirrored things like this big skull, the mirrored rocks, even the stacks of barrels and the bones on the wall. And I think I really like how the effect turned out in the end. And something else about this is since you can't get ice in Superflat, instead what I had to do is this entire floor is made out of frosted ice, which you get from Frostwalker boots. And since the light level's so low, it actually won't melt. And a little extra thing you're able to do with this is use some cracked ice around some bigger objects to make it seem like the weight is pushing down on the ice and cracking into it and applying a lot more pressure, which I think is really cool because I've never seen anyone do this before. Probably because no one wants to waste their time building with frosted ice in the dark. And if we squeeze through here, it's a little secret entrance. Pop up here. And this cave I'm not the biggest fan of, but it's more of just a tunnel looping around and around through here, all lit up with lanterns, so you can tell it's obviously been traversed and civilized. And then we have a nice, beautiful tree up here. We'll see this connects to that big chute, big pit from earlier that we were talking about. And it falls all the way down to that cave where we started. And I think that's about the whole cave system. So, now that we finished the entire mountain, inside and out, I think it's time we move on to greater things. Like terraforming our own custom biome all the way around the mountain. But we don't have time for that today. So, subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Okay, wait. Before you go, this was my second ever video, and I don't really know what I'm doing. So if you got any harsh criticism for me on how to improve my videos and make the future ones a bit better, feel free to leave that in the comments below. And now I'm actually going to leave. Goodbye.